All right, everybody, welcome to the call where today we are going to be making a tier list for one of my personal favorite bands, Fall Out Boy. Really just a fantastic band with some great music.
Yeah, absolutely, Obama. Couldn't agree with you more. Fall Out Boy is a very unique and underrated band that oftentimes doesn't quite get the recognition, love, and respect that they deserve.
Wait, I thought we were ranking Panic at the Disco, my all-time favorite band today?
Sleepy Joe, if you don't shut the fuck up, I will kill you right now.
Donald, it's okay, just calm down. He probably forgot to take his dementia pills again. Besides, first up going in chronological order of release date is their very first ever album, Evening Out with Your Girlfriend.
Trash. Who the fuck ever even listened to this? Let alone would want to nowadays, considering how their other stuff is just exponentially better. This album is absolute shit. Just stick it in F tier, and let's be done with it forever, as it should be deleted from the face of the earth.
I don't know, Donald, I actually think...
Joe, shut the fuck up. I agree with Trump. It's going at the very bottom of F tier.
Screw you guys. I disagree, and it should be an A tier instead, but we'll move on for the sake of time. Looks like we got Take This to Your Grave up next.
Seriously, Josephine A tier for their first album? I could only imagine where you'd put this significantly improved version, as anything lower than B tier would be an absolute crime.
Yes, this album was such a huge step up for them. Just look at the song Calm Before the Storm on both albums and tell me which version should really be an A tier.
Speaking of crime, Donnie, well, let's just say at least with all that tax return money you never paid up, you'll finally have enough to go and fuck Stormy Daniels again. By the way, how's that working out for you, you orange fucking retard?
I'm being framed, you sleepy, hairy-legged fuck. Why don't you go and sniff some 12-year-old girl's hair some more instead of running the country? Like, seriously, goddamn, no wonder inflation has gotten so high and so bad with you in charge.
I don't know, guys. Sounds like a skill issue for one-term presidents, but I'm putting it in A tier. And we are all moving on because you guys are my best friends and I love you both.
Sorry, Joe, I love you guys.
Next up, we have debatably their best album, From Under the Cork Tree.
Talk about overrated. This album had one good song on it, and yet gets praised as if it's stuffed full of bangers. Throw this dogshit poser in C tier because of how it somehow has managed to trick you into thinking it's a hot piece of young, supple candy ass, when really it's just two old, moldy, wet melons hiding beneath those sweet, tiny, kitty-sized yoga pants.
Joe, what the actual fuck did I hear you just say? And also, overrated? This was the Fall Out Boy era that you could just listen to and go through the most incredible experiences of your life simply because of how powerful the music and lyrics were during this entire time period for them. Easiest instant S tier of my life, and if it's not put into S tier immediately, then I will never show up to one of our dank annual late night gaming sessions or our epic tier list Discord calls, which we all use as an excuse to get away from our wives for a little bit and hang out with the homies. Except for Barack, who obviously has a husband and made sure that it was legal for himself while he was president.
Screw you, Trump. How many times do I have to tell you that Michelle is a goddamn woman? But yeah, I gotta say that's another common L take by Joe. So don't worry, Donald, this one's definitely going into S tier where it belongs.
Yes, Infinity on High. Actually, only their second album up to this point that released on time and with the band's freaking permission. Also, fun fact, it was released just one day before the creator of this video's birthday. What a rockin' album, and honestly my personal favorite of all time by them guys.
Finally, Joe is spitting straight facts instead of fumbling the easiest handoff of all time by describing America in one word from a teleprompter with one word on it, and still managing to, on the contrary, say, Ijhad Disajas Wood.
Well, boys, I would personally disagree that it's their best album, but I can also admit there's nothing quite like the sound and overall essence of pre-hiatus Fall Out Boy. For me, this is a more balanced and polished album compared to Take This to Your Grave. But again, there are other albums that I think really take the cake in S tier. So I would definitely be putting it in high A tier if this were my personal tier list, instead of one of our almost cult-like traditional group tier list sessions.
Couldn't agree more, Obama. The guitars, especially in this album, just sound absolutely incredible. Plus, don't even get me started on Patrick Stump and his singing voice before we make it to our next album on this list.
All right, Joe, what do you think?
I wanted an S, but I'm okay with it being an A tier as long as it's above Take This to Your Grave.
Perfect then. Glad we could all agree on that. Up next, we have an album by them that, believe it or not, actually divided the OG fan base upon release. Folie à deux.
Posers and fake news is what the fans are who didn't like this insanely slight yet well done and perfectly executed change in sound. This is by far And I mean by far the deepest and most thought-provoking album they've ever done. Patrick really shows off just how incredible and talented a singer he truly is, on top of the fact that the musical sound behind his voice is just top-notch perfection, almost forcing the tears to come out of your eyes.
Well, I surprisingly agree with Donald freaking Trump. I have to tell you, this album feels almost in a strange way incomplete. It's unfinished in my eyes, but I will give you this. If they had been able to really figure out that last metaphorical key turn on the endings and structuring of this album, I actually think it wouldn't just be their personal best album, but that it would go down as an iconic masterpiece throughout all of music history. With that being said, I would still put it in B tier.
Joe, what the fuck? Seriously, how do you not put an album like this instantly into the S tier, or at the bare minimum, very top of A tier?
I just disagree with all of you. You know, this album is honestly a little too depressing and sad for what I'm expecting from Fall Out Boy, and I think a lot of people watching this video would agree with me.
Well, since I believe it belongs in S tier, and Ronald McDonald over here also seems to love it, I guess we can compromise with placing it in the A tier. However, nothing will go above it inside of this tier.
Fine. But don't ever compare the greatest president of all time to some pedo clown chasing kids for that one extra small fry to add to his collection. The name rhymes with mine, sure, but we all gotta admit the description really hits the metaphorical nail on the head with about the world's biggest and greatest hammer when it comes to Joe.
No one asked, Donald. Funny and true, but no one asked. Anyways, up next, I don't know if this would really count as an album, but it's pretty solid with some genuinely catchy and good songs on it. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Believers Never Die.
Yeah, only a few originals on here, but I absolutely fuck with all three of them. From Now On We Are Enemies, You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, and Alpha Dog. Absolutely underrated bangers that not a lot of people even know about.
Couldn't agree more, friends. They are all good, but there's not enough original or new content to put this album up there with some of what we currently have on this list. I think B tier is the perfect place for something like this. What you guys thinking?
I think you really used the hammer and nailed this one right on the head. Great job, bro.
Seriously, Joe, you did amazing, and I'm proud of you. I really love when all three of us can agree on these things and get along, because it just, I don't know, it just really brings a smile to my face and makes me genuinely, truly happy. I love you all so much, my fellow president brothers in arms.
We love you too, bro. I'll put it in B tier right now. I'm just thrilled that this night took such a wonderful turn and ended up going so well. Next up is Fall Out Boy's first post-hiatus album titled Save Rock and Roll.
Oh my God, complete and utter dog shit. Everyone knows that this is when the band sold their souls and went corporate writing for radio and jocks and the popular kids instead of the unrepresented freaks, losers, and underdogs like they always used to. They sold out, and I, after hearing this music for the first time, almost couldn't even give it a second chance, as it was not even worth my OG Fall Out Boy fan status time.
Are you actually fucking retarded, Joey? First of all, great music is great music, no matter how you want to slice it. So judging a band because it doesn't sound like the same generically driven and overused sound that every other band sticks to because they're too afraid of trying something unique and different is just flat out ridiculous. If every Fall Out Boy album sounded identical to the next, they would have never become as successful, badass, awesome, beautiful, and iconic as they did. The mere mention of even the notion that this was the album where Fall Out Boy sold out tells me that you never saw the Youngblood Chronicles, which is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, well-told and most iconic full album music videos to ever release, while at the same time staying true to the purity and essence of everything this band loves and stands for.
To be 100% truthful, if you listen to all these songs in order and watch the Youngblood Chronicles while fully emotionally invested into this whole experience, this truly is Fall Out Boy's most 100% honest and complete piece of work. And I got to say this, it really is a masterpiece, despite what some of the arrogant and stubborn diehard fans may say. Art in its purest form that deserves none of the unfair criticism and hatred it gets, because to me, this was the soul of Fall Out Boy being bared to their fans. And a lot of the fans just rejected it without ever even giving it a second look. This was their last truly God-tier, goated peak album, just pure perfection, when you realize that without this album, the band would have fallen apart. And again, that's why the Youngblood Chronicles is the perfect symbolic masterpiece of how Fall Out Boy not only views themselves, but creates the music that, for 20 gosh darn years, has not only made them happy, but has also saved their fans' very lives with how beautifully woven and perfectly crafted not only their musical sound is, but also their heavily impactful lyrics are on the heart.
Damn it, I think I may have a tear in my eye. Okay, you convinced me. Just go ahead and put it wherever you want. Jerk face. God, I love Fall Out Boy way too much to be hearing you talk like that, man. It's malarkey, I tell you, malarkey.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I really appreciate that, considering how tough that was for me to say. Next up, we have American Beauty, American Psycho.
This album had some absolute hits on it, but let's not get it twisted, because there's a lot of pop-sounding influences on this album that are either just mid at times or simply good at others, but for the most part, nothing exceptional in the sense of real emotion. This, just to me at least, is when they stepped away from rock and roll and transitioned to a more pop culture sound, which, don't get me wrong, wasn't always terrible, but certain times and songs where it felt like the lyrics were so empty and meaningless certainly marks this album lower for me.
I don't see how you can love Save Rock and Roll, but barely even tolerate an album like this one, Donald. The Kids Aren't All Right is my personal favorite song, and I would even go as far to say that this album has much more emotion and sad songs on it than Save Rock and Roll does. Plus, did I already mention that The Kids Aren't All Right is a huge favorite song of mine that just resonates with me inside of my soul for some unknown reason?
Of course it does. It doesn't surprise me at all that a song with a title like that would be where your mind first slowly decides to wander towards. Of course, it is your all-time favorite, Crooked Joe.
Well, boys, I think surprisingly my biggest problem with this album is that they decided to name the entire damn thing after probably by far their worst song on there. That alone absolutely knocks it down to a maximum B tier rating for me.
Absolutely no way. This steaming pile of overrated Hubba Bubba dog shit should be chained down to at least C tier for all eternity, if you ask me.
I'm okay with putting it in B tier if you are, Obama.
Yeah, I wasn't really listening to what Daffy Donald Duck said, but it sounds like we all agree, so I'll put it in high B tier.
Screw you guys. This tier list is so inaccurate now that it's hardly worth continuing. And speaking of hardly worth anything, we have the album Mania up next.
Yeah, I don't think I need to tell anyone just how poorly received this album was upon release. However, if you really do a deep dive in it, there are some pleasant surprises you'll find that, for me at least, certainly keep it out of F tier. Bishop's Knife Trick is by far the best song on this whole album, but there are a few other good ones too, just nothing elite per se in my opinion.
Couldn't agree with you more, Barack. It's not terrible, but it certainly isn't even close to their best work. By the way, I thought the llamas were pretty cool, actually.
What the hell is wrong with both of you right now? Mania is Fall Out Boy's worst album by a mile, and it should be shitted on accordingly in the F tier, alongside whatever the fuck that studio thought it was doing, releasing that monstrosity they don't even acknowledge as an album without Fall Out Boy's permission.
Sound like a you issue, Donald? It's not our fault you can't acknowledge that this album had some positives to it, albeit not a whole lot. I would say calling it mid would be a perfectly acceptable compliment/insult, so I vote we put it in C tier.
Then it's settled. Throw that mid shit in C tier, and let's move on to Believers Never Die Volume 2, which again doesn't really count, but we're still throwing it on here regardless, so I don't want to hear any malarkey about it in the comment section below.
Bob Dylan is good enough to single-handedly put this album above Mania. Agreed?
Agreed. And now, boys, the moment we've all been waiting for. Their newest album, So Much For Stardust.
Honestly, we're going to have to give this one some more time to truly officially settle in, but first impressions were, for me at least, fuck yes.
For real though, Donnie, doesn't it seem just a little bit like goated Fall Out Boy is back?
Hell yeah, it does, Joe. And let me just say that 1 minute long instrumental opening and Love from the Other Side, fucking goddamn perfect.
You can definitely tell that Patrick Stump's been scoring movies.
Absolutely couldn't agree more with the straight facts everyone is spitting right now. And can I just say, even though every member of the band killed it so far throughout what I've heard of this album, I want to give a special shout out to the most underrated member of Fall Out Boy, Andy Hurley, for just being an absolute legend on drums and backbone for the band for 20 fucking years. He especially went off on this album because Patrick sounds insane per usual. The bass is great, guitar sounds phenomenal, but holy hell and water, the drums just went legendary beast mode, and I'm personally sick of nobody giving this absolute giga chat of a man and drummer the credit he deserves. I love Fall Out Boy, and for now I say we put it safely in B tier with the full expectation that as it ages, it will make its way even higher up this list.
That was perfectly said, Donald. I agree with you on that. And I can tell Joe's already asleep for the night, so with that, That is our official tier list for every single major Fall Out Boy album ever. I hope everyone watching enjoyed it because we had to put a lot of time and thought into this, right, Trump?
I don't know about all that, but if they don't like the video and subscribe right now, I will not hesitate to throw them all on the other side of my magnificent wall, which is perfect in every single way imaginable, and there's absolutely no way to get back over.
If that was a very slight love from the other side song reference veiled inside of that threat, then I applaud you, my brother. Also, I don't want to be that guy, but couldn't they just dig a few feet under your wall, regardless of how tall and magnificent it is?
Oh, my God,
Fuck!